Okay, we are going to review today one of Lenovo's most budget-friendly ThinkPads. I love me some ThinkPad, and I love me some not spending too much money on something. This one here is the 2025 Lenovo ThinkPad E16. These laptops have always kind of been one that I'm pretty happy with over the past few years since they came out, since I guess Gen 1. The E series are meant to be Lenovo's more budget-friendly offering. You know, they have the E, L, kind of in the lower price brackets. Then they go up to stuff like the T and P, which can be pretty expensive. The X series, those are really expensive, more premium. But the nice thing about these E series laptops is they do a really good job of balancing being a good laptop, getting access to stuff like the very high-end ThinkPad warranties, ThinkPad support, ThinkPad drivers, ThinkPad this, ThinkPad that, but also not costing a fortune. So the E series here is meant to be a very thin, may not look as thin on camera, but it is thin, very light. As you can see, it's a very light laptop, despite the fact that it's 16 inches, and it's very budget friendly. This thing costed me, I can't remember off the top of my head, maybe it was $800 US would probably be how much it would convert to. It's about 1,000 Canadian, whatever that is in US dollars. And this is a pretty decked out version of it. They come with a lot of different variants, different CPUs, different things like that. But what you're getting here is a budget-friendly ThinkPad. You get all the advantages of a ThinkPad, but you pay less money. Okay, so here's a look at the PSRef document. We can see here that we have a very thin laptop. On the right side here, we can go over the ports here. I'm going to show it as well, but we can go over the ports here. 1, 2, 3. USB-A, fast enough, good for a SATA SSD type stuff. You do get RJ45 Ethernet and your Kensington lock slot. On the left side, you do get a full bandwidth HDMI, very nice. Then you do get another USB-C. This is first USB-C. This is going to be another 5 gigabits, so fast enough for a SATA SSD or something like that. But it also has power deliver and display out if need be. This is the good one here, USB-C in the middle there. You do end up with a USB 4 40 gigabit. I don't think I've ever seen an E series with a USB 4, so they're even kind of adding some of these. Maybe the cost of the USB 4 implementation is better, or they've realized that it's just something that people really want. So implementing that means that, first of all, you're going to be able to hook up, dongles, docks, all that kind of stuff, expand your storage, expand that. You can also hook up an eGPU if need be, get extra gaming performance out of this. You can game on this thing anyways, but you could hook that up and hook up an eGPU and get better performance, and another USB-A headphone. Very good. Lots of configurations here. I went with the top spec, but you can go all the way down to a Ryzen 3 210. These are all renames. They're just 7000 series AMD, which is good. I mean, that's the nice thing is these these E series are always like a generation or two behind, but we've got to the point now where a generation behind or two behind is still very good. So take that as you want, but a 4-core 8-thread, decent, very intro. But these are where it gets more interesting when you get into the 6 cores here, 6-core 12-thread, a lot better. You can get some decent iGPUs here. I went with the big boy here, the Ryzen 7 250, which is essentially a 7840U. Same thing that you find a lot of the handhelds in that. You get an 8-core processor, 16-thread, and the GOAT iGPU, the 780M, which was the true revolutionary iGPU. So we're going to show in this video gaming, and yes, you can game actually quite well on this device here. Now, the one thing that's unfortunate will just come down screen. Yeah, we don't have anything interesting here on the screen. We actually have bad screens, unfortunately. 1200p, it's not my thing, but it's fine, I guess. Like, if you want to keep your battery down, you don't really care about, doing like high-level graphic design where you need the finest resolution, it's fine. Touch, non-touch, fine. Anti-glare, fantastic. Love to see that, especially on a touch screen. 300 nits, it's okay. Not the biggest deal. For a cheap screen, I'd prefer brighter, but whatever, it's fine. But here's the issue, 45% NTSC. 60 hertz is not great, but whatever, it's not a big deal. But the 45% NTSC is a problem. You're going to end up with very muted colors. I'll be showing in this video, specifically in the red, you're going to get some muted colors there. So overall, it's pretty impressive. The only real letdown here is the screen is not great, but I mean, you're getting even in like a cheap laptop that ends up with a USB 4, which is pretty unexpected. So let's jump in now. Okay, and here's a look at the laptop. Zoom out there a little bit. We can see that it does get fingerprints. That's fine, because it is a very smooth surface on the top. So I just gave that a quick spray there. I've been using this on and off for a couple weeks actually. So you give it a quick wipe like that. It's not plastic. It's just a nice coating there. Comes off super easy. Once it dries, you'll be fingerprint free, but just be aware it will get them because it is a black material. Inside as well, this is going to be a little bit worse for fingerprints in here. I've already given it a wipe down, but you can see you'll get a little bit, but it's a smooth texture. It's not a like ribbed texture or anything like that, so it is relatively easy to wipe them down. So just be aware of that. The actual laptop is relatively sleek. Again, it is an E series, so it's not going to feel quite as premium and like sleek and all of that as the T series, but they do a good job with these. Not too thick, a little bit of a thicker screen, but not too thick, considering they're not focused on, you know, being super thin. Kind of a more traditional ThinkPad kind of design. Very nice. Smooth top, obviously. Bottom there. You can get metal or plastic. I opted for the metal bottom. Speakers firing out there. Very simplistic. Inside, again, like I said before, it is a smoother one here. Some of the T series in that they have actually like a textured. This is completely smooth inside. Fingerprint reader up there. You do have your numpad. Standard, honestly, standard ThinkPad, modern ThinkPad keyboard with track point, plunging style thing. Reasonable size bezels, not the smallest in the world because it is, again, ThinkPad. They don't focus on super small bezels. It's looking just fine. Very nice. Let's start with the weight. Not too much configurable weight. This is the smaller battery, so if you get the bigger battery, you will get a little bit more weight, but otherwise this will be pretty close to what you're going to get. So 1721, again, not the lightest, but there's a fair bit going on inside of here, and I opted for some more metal with the bottom, for example. Charger is not massive. This is not a beast of a system with, you know, RTX or anything like that. Little tiny charger here. USB-C, so you can just use any standard USB-C. So, what are we at there? Yeah, 1976, that didn't add much. Again, you can get these chargers here. You can use like even a little 65 watt. Just whatever brand type thing will work fine, but the Lenovo ones work good, so very nice. Though this is the bottom, you can get two. You can get the plastic bottom, this is the metal bottom. They call it PBS, I believe is what the plastic one is called, or you can get this metal one. The metal is nice because it just gives a little bit more of a premium feel. It might add a tiny bit of weight, but not much, and it will give it a little bit more structure, just feel a little more sound. Lots of structural plastic pieces in here, so it does feel quite rigid, so that's nice. Two battery options. This has the smaller battery, 48 watt hours. So you can get this thing with 48 watt hours, or you can get it with a larger 64 watt hours. There's lots of room in here for the bigger battery. Probably the 64 would just be, it would just sit on top of those ribbon cables there, I would assume. So it would kind of be like that. Your choice. This is just the lower battery. Not going to have the best battery life, again, because it is a 48 watt hour, but when we get to the battery section, you'll see how much battery it's burning, and you can extrapolate from that if you get the larger one. Speakers are okay, especially for a, you know, E-series type, not the craziest battery, not the craziest speakers, but they should be a little bit of an upgrade over previous generations, hopefully. Inside's a little anemic. They're clearly using the same motherboard and setup here as the E14. So the E14 would essentially be this right here, and then motherboard, fans, and all that when they do the 16. And a lot of companies do this. They essentially just add more shell, and then they use a daughter board over here to push things out further. It just allows them to streamline, keep the costs down. These aren't meant to be super expensive, so if they had different parts for each, it would cost more. So that's that. There's a large metal plate here. You can see that does basically over the keyboard, but that does also help with structure as well. The keyboard is essentially in the back of that, but it does make it a little more rigid. You like to see that. Upgradability is actually pretty decent here, right? So we do have a dual NVMe option here. Sorry, dual SODIMM option here. This one did come with 16 gigabytes. We're in the RAM apocalypse right now, big time RAM apocalypse right now. So the price of RAM is very high right now. So this is a case where you might want to spec it out from Lenovo or get something that you can hold for the time being. The nice thing about this is it does come, which I prefer, a single 16 gigabyte stick. You can see there's SK Hynix 16 gigabyte. The nice thing about that is that it's DDR5. So the issues we used to get with DDR4 with, you know, dual channel memory, single channel memory, it's not an issue anymore. The performance gain from adding a second stick is not massive. It will see a little bit, but it's not massive. So it's something you can consider. You don't have to do it, but it does allow you to get into 16 gigabytes now, upgrade later by adding in another 8 gigabyte stick or 16 gigabyte stick rather than 8 and 8. And if you want to upgrade, you need to get 2 replacement sticks. Just for the purpose of this video, I am going to just add in another stick, just not necessarily for the performance, but what I actually wanted to show here, this is the same brand, SK Hynix. What I actually want to show here is that this thing does have a very capable iGPU, the 780M. And so if we only have 16 gigabytes, we're going to be sharing 16 gigabytes of RAM for the system, like Windows. We're going to be then also sharing some of it for the video card, the graphics card in here, the iGPU 780M. And then the other thing is we're going to be loading up, for example, a game, and the game will also have memory. So the only real scenario where 16 is going to be an issue is if you have a bazillion tabs open, all kinds of stuff open, obviously, or if you're doing a lot of gaming. Upgradability as well, we also have upgradable Wi-Fi. You'd love to see that there. And we do get a single, NVMe over here, 2242, which isn't the best because you can only get up to 2 terabytes right now, but there is a second slot here. Cooling is pretty good too. Again, this is just AMD 250. It's going to be more than capable of cooling with this massive fan here. Single heat pipe is not an issue on this. It's just an iGPU. It's not going to run at crazy high watts. We'll see what it peaks at, but overall the cooling should be up to the task. So it's looking pretty good inside for an E-series laptop without, you know, all the extras. They didn't screw around and put stuff that wasn't needed. It's pretty damn good for a budget segment. So here is an example. We have an IdeaPad. This is just an IdeaPad 5, kind of in the same realm of existence where you're getting the cheaper ThinkPad. This is the cheaper IdeaPad. This one is also a 2-in-1, so a little different there, but let's just have a quick look at some of the differences here. Keyboards are kind of the same design language. So here we have, you know, numpad. This is a rubbery texture. This is a smooth texture. Trackpads. This is a clicky, very sharp clicky trackpad. This is a kind of soft trackpad. The ThinkBooks always go for, you know, quieter. They're going to be for quieter kind of design. But you can see this, you know, they're kind of similar in some ways. These always feel a little bit more dense. Focus on being slightly thinner, that kind of stuff, especially as a 2-in-1. This one, it is still pretty thin, but it's not the primary focus of it. They're actually kind of similar. Like you can see if we put it side by side, there's a little bit more lip there, and then of course raised up a little bit more. So these are both very budget. We have the IdeaPad super budget. We have the ThinkPad super budget. This is going to be a little bit more professional looking. Obviously a lot more expansion in this here. This is soldered RAM, that kind of stuff, so a little bit more expansion. Some others there as well. So they both have quite nice keyboards. IdeaPad keyboards are, and Yoga, like this style. So there's IdeaPads, Yogas. These are probably my preferred right now. I do actually kind of like the rubberized texture here. It keeps fingerprints down a little bit. It just feels nice. Very small, like vertically, the keycaps are very, very small here, but they have a lot of travel. Very snappy. These keycaps are actually the tiniest bit taller, and I think they might have more travel. It's hard to tell, but I think these might slightly more travel. So you're going to get more likely to get fingerprints on here, but it's probably a slightly more rewarding typing experience. These will be, I've been using like this style of keyboard. I've been using IdeaPads and Yogas a lot recently. So transitioning then over to a ThinkPad is basically the same thing, but let's give it a quick type here. Okay, come over here. Yeah, so the actual keyboards are very similar. I actually would probably prefer the ThinkPad in general, just like if you were to be like, do you want a ThinkPad or an IdeaPad keyboard? I'd be like, I don't know. I guess the ThinkPad. And I kind of panic and I'd pick that one. But in this specific model, this is actually better because this is a denser laptop. It's very thin. It's completely packed inside. And so as a result, there's no real flex, even though this is plastic. Just the density in here, you can feel that it's just dense underneath. This one here, because of the style of it, it's an open chassis. There's a lot of empty space in here, to be honest. Like there's actually a little bit of give there. The deck doesn't feel too flexy, but like that feels rigid. That's rigid, that's rigid. But there's a little bit of like a softer zone in here, a little bit more flex. So when you're typing over here, you do get a little bit more like flexy, kind of like hollow feel, a little bit. But if you're comparing this to a lot of other laptops outside of, you know, these like super amazing keyboard that you get on an IdeaPad Pro or Yoga, it's still going to blow away the vast majority of keyboards. Like truly, it's going to be, if you haven't used a ThinkPad, you're going to be like, holy, this is a really nice keyboard. The trackpads are very different. This is a small trackpad, but what we do have here is a very sharp click. Now, I prefer that a lot, actually. That's just my personal preference. I like that sharp tactility. This does not have that at all. There's a reason for that though. This is a much quieter, more muted click because it's a ThinkPad. ThinkPads are often deployed in professional environments, and the last thing you need in a professional environment is this. every 5 seconds from 30 different laptops. Doesn't feel as like nice to me, but it's still very sharp, so I get it. Now the other advantage here is you do get a track point with dedicated controls here. So what you get here is you can actually control this like a mouse, just like back in the day. Actually, before the trackpad came out, they had this. The nice thing about that is you do have left, right, and scroll. All right, so you can use that there. Let's just come in here. We can go, just go into whatever website. You can use this to navigate, click. You can also use the center button to quick scroll, which is actually a very useful thing. Much more convenient actually than doing you can just rapidly go down. It's quite nice. And you actually get a lot of control over it. So that's really nice. But the main thing is here when you're typing. So if you're typing like this, let's just go back here and I'll just do a quick little typing thing. I'm a semi-touch typist. I'm not a like true touch typist. So I don't keep my hands like here and then just like, it's just not the way that I type. But if you are, you know, you are typing and you have like I think my hands are always like trying to go over here, but if you are a touch typist, we'll just say if you are a touch typist, you're going to always be back here at your home base and you're going to be typing. And then if you have to come down here in your document, you move something around, fix it, then you have to bring your hand back up. And yet it has a little guide here, but every time you have to come back up here and type. This gets rid of that need. So what you actually do is you just go, especially when you get used to it, finger over, right? And you can adjust your document, fix your document. You can use these. Right click, or you can actually just tap on here, of course, right? But you can use this over here to navigate, and then you don't have to remove all your hand. You just come over, you just go like that. So you're not having to reset every single time. And if you do a lot of document editing, not just, you know, just typing out a story, if you're actually editing a document, moving around a lot, you may find that being able to come over here quite a bit can save a lot of time and effort, you know, rather than coming down here whenever you have to fix anything. So that's nice. Of course, you do have the dedicated numpad. There's no way they're going to take that out of the ThinkPad like this because these are made for professionals. So you're always going to see those there. It's actually a slightly larger numpad over here than over on the IdeaPad. The IdeaPad is slightly shrunk down. You can see the smaller bezels, or larger bezels. Here they slightly shrunk the bezels down so they can give a larger numpad, which makes sense. The trackpad is, as a result, off, but that's fine because if it was over here, you wouldn't be able to use this. This would be, you'd be typing here. So because there's a numpad over here, you have to shift the whole thing over. The whole trackpad comes over, which makes even more sense because we have these buttons over top. They're both touch screens, so you can see they are both actually touch screens. Now there is a pretty big difference here, like that's touch, that's touch. This is a glossy screen, very, very, very glossy screen. So when it's on like that, you're not going to see much. So this here is completely non-reflective. There's really no real reflection here. It's going to be, you can't really see me, like maybe the tiniest bit. You can see me moving in there, over here. A little bit light over there, not really that reflective. You can straight up just see me in it, right? Light. Now these screens are on paper very similar. 1200p, 1200p. 60 hertz refresh, 60 hertz refresh. This does actually, you can get a really nice OLED screen on this, but this one here, there's either touch or no touch. The specs are all otherwise the same. But the weird thing is they don't actually appear to be the same. It's a very strange thing to me. 45% NTSC is not a good color space. You're going to get muted reds. You're going to be kind of crushed. But they don't appear to be the same. Normally a glossy screen, you get a negative of its glossy, so it's very reflective. You can see me reflected in there. But on the upside, it usually makes the colors pop. That's actually not the case over here. They don't seem to be as lining up as I would have originally thought, which is interesting. This screen actually looks better than this. They have a very similar color space, probably in the 45% NTSC, where you don't get good reds. Like you get kind of this weird orangey tone over here where it doesn't look super red. But what I am surprised by, and I think it's just down to brightness, this thing here, this screen here doesn't look as bright, and so it doesn't look as vivid. The whites here actually come out, they're still white, but they're almost like a tiniest hint of yellow because they're not vivid, they're not bright, right? So that's one of the negatives there. This one over here, on the other hand, though, you actually do get really decent brightness, and this white looks very crisp over here. And I don't know if that has something to do with just the pure brightness of the laptop, or if it has something to do with the color space or the screen tech. In previous years, the E series, specifically the first generation, had like a stealth option where you could actually upgrade to 100% sRGB 1600p screen. We don't have that anymore. You only get 1200p and you don't get good color space. You can get touch or non-touch. That's unfortunate because that was such a stealth offering from Lenovo where I did a review of it. And I was like, what the hell? This has such a nice screen. Over here, this is just a Dell laptop. This has essentially a very similar screen to what you could have got. So it does have a very good color space. Go a little bit further over here and we'll be able to see how much more vibrant this red is, right? So the red over here is so much more vibrant. This is, the color here is red. If someone were to ask me what the color is here, I'd say red. If someone were to ask me what the color is here beside this, I'd be like, red-orange? Like orangey red? Not too sure. On its own, if you didn't have this beside, you'd be like, it looks okay. But once you bring it close to a screen that has a much better color space, you're like, oh, okay, well, that's how a red should be. So that's one of the unfortunate things they've done this year. They've really nerfed the color options on these laptops where you don't get that really nice red anymore. You don't get those really vivid colors anymore. One of the weird things that I did notice here, though, this is a good screen. This is a very good screen, vivid, bright, whatever, good color space. But this one here has a slightly higher peak brightness. It's certainly not a dim screen. I don't know what they rate it for, but like in the specs there, but it actually appears to be very bright. So the brightness of the screen is good. And you can actually see that in the whites. I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but to me, this is a very crisp, sharp white all around here. It looks very vivid. By comparison, this white looks kind of dull, actually, a little bit. It's fine, but when you bring it up here, it looks dull. So it's a mixed bag. You get much better reds here, much better color space, but this one does appear to be slightly brighter, and it also does appear to have better whites as well, which is interesting. Just a strange thing to notice. In the greens as well, you'll notice slight crushing, little bit, where they don't look quite as vivid and bright and kind of, you know, healthy and alive, but it's not as bad. It's a strange screen because compared to another 45% NTSC screen like that IdeaPad, that one had slightly more crushed reds, and it also had slightly more crushed greens, which is interesting. It almost looked like the greens would look kind of dead. This one, it is definitely not the same color space. It might be rated for 45% NTSC, but I think it's actually slightly above that. Maybe not so much in the reds, but you can definitely see it in the greens where they're not too bad. It's interesting. It's strange. That being said, it's not the most color accurate screen. So if you're using this for professional color work, graphic design type stuff, this is not the screen for you. The greens are not the best, and the reds are not great at all. Now, audio, I'm not sure. ThinkPads have been improving slightly over the years in terms of speakers, and a lot of the T-series stuff went from pretty bad in like 2022, even 2023, they were pretty bad. And then in 2024, they were like, let's put good speakers in these things. And they're not, creator level speakers, but they weren't bad. The E-series, they don't look like they totally changed the speakers, so I'm not sure here. Let's see how they go, though. So watch your headphones. We'll see. I'm going to turn it up. It's going to get pretty loud, I think. Very loud. It's actually not bad. They're really not that bad. The bass, they don't have a lot of low-end bass, obviously. It's quite lacking. So you don't have that richness of the low-end bass that you get on something like a MacBook. Some of the Asus laptops are going to be sounding a lot better. The Lenovo Yoga are massively better than this, obviously, especially the Yoga Pros. But it's not bad. Honestly, it feels full enough. In the high end, it's very full in the high end. Mid-range, not too bad at all. Low end's a little lacking, but not bad. It also gets extremely loud, so you are going to have no problems if you need to like put this in a classroom or something or a business meeting and you're like, this is now my source of audio for a large room full of people. Yeah, it'll do the job. It's actually pretty loud, especially for talking. They obviously are focusing on that high-end stuff, but even if you're just listening to music on that, it's not bad. It's really better than I anticipated. So these do have power modes. These are typically supplied directly into the Windows environment here. So unlike some laptops from Lenovo, like IdeaPad Yogas and there we go, and let's go best power efficiency, and also the Legions, the power plan here actually does affect it. So you hit Function Q and it'll switch through the modes. In these ThinkPads, it's actually in the Windows power mode here, and it actually does work. It will affect the battery life. Specifically, it'll affect the performance profile, so how much watts are going into the GPUs in that, APUs, that kind of stuff, so you can do that there. Now, as I mentioned before, the CPU here it's just a refresh, to be honest. It's the AMD 250, which is just the 7840 refreshed, so which is a really good CPU. It's a really, really good CPU. You're going to be getting a good iGPU. The 7840U is a good CPU, so very good. Typically the E series are a generation behind. So one way that they keep the costs down is the CPUs are like a generation or two behind. But we're getting to the point now where even a generation or two behind is very good. Even some of the new Lenovo Legions that are coming out from Lenovo and other brands as well for their gaming stuff actually come with stuff like the AMD 250 and 260. Anyways, typically the 260, which is fantastic. It's a very good CPU. So we're getting to the point now where the CPUs are so advanced that we're not using like 5000 series old AMD kind of crap. We're getting into the 250, which is fantastic. Of course, then you also get a really good iGPU. So we'll come in here, we'll run this, check the noise, check the wattages. So we'll come here. Laptop is completely silent under idle. There's no noise at all. Now this is not the highest wattage offering. You can see right there, 40 is generally what you're going to get as a peak here. This is basically the exact same chip that comes in a lot of those handhelds, like the Lenovo Legion Go, ROG Ally, those type of things. It has this chip in it. There's just a different name. They name it differently. But those, the Z1 Extreme, and you can get the third-party ones, but it's the same thing. It's the 7840U with the 780M graphics. Same type of wattages too. So we dumped in 40 to start there, and then we're sustaining at 35. Exactly the same as a lot of these handhelds. Fans are finally kicking up. It's a nice low pitch noise. There's no whine, no whirring, no hissing, no whoa, 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 or ah. Temperatures are nothing, no throttling whatsoever. Even under full load 35, sustained, no throttle. And the scores are good, 12,674. This is a very good CPU. The 260, the naming is really dumb. The 260 is technically the HS processor, so it's higher watts. So it'll sustain something like 45 long term. This is the U variant, or the lower wattage variant, so it doesn't sustain as much watts long term. But you still get good scores. 12,674 is nothing to sneeze at. This will be a very good CPU for doing even heavy CPU tasks like video editing, code compile, graphic design, even engineering type stuff. It's going to be very good, right? If you're doing some of the heaviest work imaginable and you need like a 9950X or something, okay, sure, that's a totally different thing. But for a little thin and light laptop that's going to have good battery, this is a very good chip. And we can come in here. I'm going to see if this actually controls it. You don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily always work, but we'll come in here, we'll go best power efficiency. And it does. Very good. So the Lenovo, rather than having it, in their software, the Windows environment does control the power. And you can see there I went to battery saver and we went immediately down to 10 watts. You'll see we can do a lot with 10 watts on this chip. We can do a lot with 10 watts, but it's also silent. My noise floor is about 34, so it's on, but you can barely hear it. Now the balance mode here should be balanced. So 10 was minimum, 35 was max. What is it going to give us for a balance? I'm thinking like 20, 25. Yep, 25. That's respectable. And you can do a lot with 20 to 25 in that range. It might go down to 20. Yeah, so 10 watts sustained is the silent. Balanced mode is a 25 watt boost, 20 watt static. Performance mode is a 40 watt boost with a 35 watt static. It's very respectable, and you can do a lot with 20 watts. Just so you know, when we get into gaming, my handheld, the Legion Go S, it will do 35 watts, no problem, but a lot of times I just don't want to hear the fan, so I actually slap it into 15 to 20 watts, and I play all my AAA games, AAA 2025 games at 20 watts, and yeah, you lose a tiny bit of performance, but not bad. So let's jump over to the benchmarks now. We can see what we can get here, and then we'll get into some actual game testing. Okay, just a peek at some benchmarks here. So with hardware info not running, we're getting a full run here of 14,000, which is actually very good considering this is a slightly older chip and not the highest wattage. Very respectable. You're going to be able to do really any type of work on this thing. Very good. Dropping down to balanced, and you notice it was a lot quieter. We're still getting a very good score. This is 10,000. I mean, you can do a lot with 10,000. There are still chips coming out that have 10,000 as their top. So this is very good. And then we have here silent mode, also respectable in silent mode. I mean, even under that 10 watt, which is nothing, we're still getting higher than an i7-1165G7 mobile processor, which is, top of the line, kind of lower wattage, 11th gen. So, I mean, we're doing better than that, under 10 watts. So very, very, very good. And the included SSD, Gen 4, middle to upper range Gen 4 SK Hynix, good SSD. Then jumping over to some battery here, we just had an idle situation here. just hanging out, full brightness, of course, just hanging out in Windows, not doing anything. And, you know, we're idling around 5 watts or so. So even with the small battery, which, like I said, it is a pretty small battery in this offering, I mean, it's still going to give you 8 to 10 hours of idle. It's very good. Increase the battery size. I would still recommend if possible. Okay, and just some browsing now, just so we're not just showing the static. I've been kind of messing around, just browsing the Lenovo website here, just whatever, digging around. And we can watch the wattages here go up. They don't really go up much. They will go up as it loads page, and then they'll go back down, right? So it goes up to 8 or so. And then we just kind of come in here, and we're just messing around, exploring. Let's find a ThinkPad E16, 16E, whatever. I'll find it. Or will it? Yeah, found it. Yes, like it's really not spiking up. So obviously the idle was very low, 5-ish. And then the spike up here was 9 to 10, depending on what you're loading, right? That kind of stuff. There's a bit of a load in when you first do a YouTube video. So Tech Guy Vote, E16. I think I did it last year, didn't I? Maybe I didn't. Yeah, this is the last year's model where they got rid of the good screen, and I was like, why? Set this to 1080p 60. There we go. Pretty standard watch here for a 1080p screen. And we'll just let it run. Come back in a moment with that there. Okay, and then once we've kind of settled into the video, it's run for a little while, we can see that the actual wattage did drop down quite a bit. We're down to even below 7 watts because it's already buffered in most of the video. It just slowly drip feeds in. So even sitting here watching YouTube with the smaller battery offering, I mean, we're still looking at 6, 7, maybe even 8 hours. I mean, it's not bad. Honestly, it's a very efficient chip here. Okay, here's a look at the built-in webcam. We'll see how it sounds. Just kicked out of a game, the fan's going for a little bit. Now it's going down. I just want to see how much it picks up fan noise. Not that you'd often be on a meeting with the fan running at full speed, but we'll see. It looks okay. Definitely desaturated, not a high resolution screen by any means. It's fine. I mean, cheap business laptop. You'll get the job done for doing meetings and that kind of stuff. But you know, if you're looking for a high-end webcam, this is not going to be the one. It's just enough. It'll get the job done. Now, can this laptop be used for professional work? Of course it can. That's what it's designed for. Now, because of this screen color space, yeah, maybe not the best laptop for professional graphic designers because you're not going to get the best reds and all the calibrations and that. But for stuff like video editing where, you know, the professional level of the thumbnail colors doesn't need to be that important. Obviously things like if you're doing professional administration type stuff, banking, coding, engineering, all this kind of stuff, doesn't really matter. But even for the stuff that I do, right? Like you can come in here and this is my video editing software. Now, I have done more video editing on this chip, a variant of it, basically. The 7840HS, 7840U, 8840HS, 8840U, AMD 250, 260, whatever. They just keep refreshing the damn chip over and over again. But as a result, in the past 2.5 years, I have used this chip or a variant of it more than any other chip to do my channel, my YouTube, just so you know. So clearly you can do it. Actually, in fact, the laptop that I'm using right now, the current daily driver, is an AMD 260, which is the same chip, just higher watt. Otherwise, it's exactly the same. So we'll come in here. This is going to process real fast. We were already able to scrub through, by the way, with audio. And just so you know, this is a 4K 60 video here. This is not some tiny video. This is a 4K 60 video. Very large, right? Now the audio is fully processed. Fully processed meaning you can scrub really fast right through. This video is fully done. It's going to have absolutely no problems running, doing heavy video editing on this. Like I said, this is the chip that I use. I just use a higher wattage variant, which is only 10 to 15% faster total, and I do all of my video editing right now, and I've done more video editing on this chip or a variant of it than any other thing by far, like actually by far. So the actual video editing process here is going to be very fast. It's going to be a clean, smooth, and effective process. Very well established drivers. You're not going to worry about this thing crashing out and being weird, not being supported. It's going to run really well. That's the CPU. having a true 8-core 16-thread CPU is going to fly for video editing. It's going to be really nice. The other thing here is video export. So not just the CPU for editing, which it can do, and it's very good at it, CPU for editing, of course, exporting, right? You come in here, when you're done, you export it. And interestingly enough, I've actually done more video editing on an iGPU laptop than a DGPU laptop, like by far. I often use dedicated graphics because it is faster. Like there's no comparison. A 780M iGPU is not going to beat an RTX 5080 or something in a laptop. It's not even close, right? Even a 5050 or something like that is going to be faster. But that doesn't mean this is slow, right? I've done more video editing on this iGPU than anything. So you come in here, you get your AMD video editing. Don't think you need NVIDIA. You don't. Intel is slightly faster in terms of video export for chips. It's just Intel QuickSync is a very good procedure, but the AMD is still effective. So you come in here, you rip out a 10-minute 4K 60 video. It won't take long, right? It'll take, if it's a 10-minute video, it'll probably take about, honestly, 10 minutes, maybe 11 minutes, something like that. Sometimes quicker, just depends how much stuff you have. If you have a bunch of tracks in here with all kinds of stuff, it'll take longer. This one here, because there's just 2 tracks, it might actually only take a few minutes. Like you can see, it's already going. Okay, so that's good enough. So we can see here we're at 56, 57, 2 minutes. So 2 minutes elapsed, 2 minutes done, basically 3. So it'll be 5 minutes to finish it, right? And it's a 10-minute video. So it's about 50%. Right? So if you have a 60-minute video, it'll be about 30 minutes. And that's pretty standard. That's about what I found. Depends on the video. If you have all kinds of tracks in here, 7 tracks, a million different things, of course it goes slower. But typically my videos have 2 video tracks and then just some text type stuff or whatever. And generally speaking with this iGPU, if the thing is an hour long, like a big long hour video, it'll take half an hour to encode such a big video. So again, very fast. So here's one thing to be considerate of. You noticed when I did the teardown, I added more RAM. So this thing does have a very good CPU, AMD 250, with a 780M iGPU. That's a very good iGPU. It's essentially what you find in the Legion Go, ROG Ally 1 and 2, Legion Go S, lots of handhelds. I mean, now we're 1 tier above technically, but it's not even that much faster. This is only a tiny bit behind the best real, like standard iGPU you can get, really, unless you get into some of that, Ryzen Max crap. Now you can see here I added more RAM. So this thing came with 16 gigabytes, which is fine. It's not the biggest deal. Windows will take up some of that, right? Like I have a bunch of crap open here using 9 gigabytes, so it would be fine, not a big deal. But what I want to do is I want to show some gaming here. The i780M is a very capable iGPU, capable of playing games at settings that are higher. Higher settings though will require, and more modern games and higher settings will require more VRAM. So you can see here, I've set it to steal 2 gigabytes of memory from the system memory. So if you only had 16 gigabytes of memory, Windows would use some, maybe 9 gigabytes, something like that. The GPU would steal between 512 megabytes up to a gigabyte or 2, which is fine. Then if you load up a game though, the game itself also needs some memory. So you're going to get to a point where you're fighting between system memory, Windows memory, and also video memory. So you're going to have issues there when gaming. The nice thing here is if you add more system memory, add in this extra stick, even a little bit, take it up to 24 or something like that, you can allocate more dedicated graphics memory, more memory to your graphics, your iGPU. Of course, it also helps with things like this as well. So let me show you what this means here. So when you go into the BIOS here, just boot into your BIOS, you can come in here and you can go display and UMA frame buffer. UMA frame buffer is just the amount of memory your system will allocate from those RAM sticks that I put in there to your graphics. So, like I said, the 780M is a very capable iGPU. This thing might come with auto, which you can often use. Just set it to auto, and it will decide what it wants to do. But if you're playing a game, for example, there's going to be many cases where 1 gigabyte is like you're starving the graphic, the 780M for video memory. It can use more. Even 2 gigabytes, it might be like, bro, give me more memory here. I can use that. Sometimes, not always, but some games, even 4 is going to be not enough, where the GPU is powerful enough that you can increase the settings and it's like, give me some more juice here so that I can give you better graphics. So because I have so much memory, I'm going to set it to 8 gigabytes. It's going to be fine. So Windows will use whatever it needs, the game will use whatever it needs, and the graphics in here are going to have 8 gigabytes to work with. If you don't have, 32 gigabytes or something like that, or even 24, you might want to set it to 4 or auto. I think that's fine. 1 and 2 probably aren't enough, but 4 gigabytes or auto is going to be good for lower memory configurations without issues. Because I have so much in this case, I'm going to give it 8. Now, then you ask the question, can you play games? Well, of course you can. Most dedicated gaming handhelds right now have this chip in it. The Steam Deck has a weaker one, and the brand new stuff for 2026, like halfway on, has a, like the Z2 Extreme, it's slightly faster by like 5 to 10%, but mostly not. So here is Arc Raider. Let's see if we can unlock that frame rate. This is Arc Raiders here. Now we are at low. We're at native resolution on 1200p. We do not have frame gen on because I don't use frame gen. Let's just unlock the frame rate, even though we're not going to be getting 150 FPS or anything like that. But yeah, we're on low just to start with frame gen off and just balanced FSR, which is fine. It's FSR 3, it'll be fine. And we should be able to pull off most of the time 50 to 60 FPS without any concern, to be honest. Right, this is Arc Raiders, very popular new game. You can increase the settings. Of course, you could put it up to, this is low, you could put it up to medium. You could turn off scaling, so you could just go native, and it will run at native. I play this game on my handheld, or I have played it on my handheld. It runs just fine at native. It also runs fine with this scaling at like medium, for example, but I think most people, from what I understand from my audience, you guys, is this is a competitive type game, so people want higher FPS, because you could potentially be getting into battle with people, and you don't want to, well, there's two of them, and you don't want to, you know, have a low frame rate cause you to die, basically, like I'm about to have, because I suck, not because of frame rate. And this is like rock solid, right? Look at this frame rate here. Now, I completely suck at this game. Am I completely out of bullets? Also, by the way, as much as I don't play normally on a mouse and keyboard, just so you know. I didn't realize there was two of them. No, I'm dead. Now, I forgot to bring med packs. I've only played this game a few times, but yeah, I mean, this is I'm not going to go through and just play. This is the 780M. This is what comes in gaming handhelds. If you buy yourself a Legion Go 1, ROG Ally 1, ROG Ally X, Legion Go S, a lot of the imported handhelds as well, they all come with this iGPU, this graphics. This is what they have, this exact chip. It's just called the Z1E. And the newest stuff for 2026, using the 890M, it's only like 5 to 10% faster. So you can play like, this is not like a compromised experience. We're like, maybe I can play some games. No, you can play games. You can play lots of games. Right now, you will remember that I put on that extra bit of VRAM. I'm going to die in a sec, but I put on that extra bit of VRAM there, right? So you can see here the graphics we're using. We're only using 3.7. It's actually less than I thought. So I think that depending on how much system memory you have, I just put 8 just to be safe. But you can see here, it's only using 3.7 in this game here, right? It might be using more. It might be using 4.4. That's shared though. So I think we're only using about 4. So you can set it to auto or 4 gigabytes. I think for a lot of people that'll be fine. If you're like me and you have a massive amount of RAM in the system, you can add more. But I think for most people, you can set that VRAM to auto or 4 gigabytes, and that should be fine. There will be some games where it runs so fast, like this here, that right, you could turn up the settings if you wanted. You could turn up the settings, which would turn up the VRAM amount. But we're only using 47. So of 8, we're using like 4.5, 5, something like that. So at least you went out in style. Did I though? Okay, so we'll do my conclusions with the negatives first. Pretty straightforward. The only real negative of this laptop is that the screen offering does not come with 100% sRGB. There's only a 45% NTSC screen offering. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like that. I like to have at least one good screen offering. And you can give us the lower ones that people don't care about. They're like, if you're using this for document editing, your student, your banking, administration, engineering, you don't care. Yeah, just get this. It's not going to make a difference. It's still bright enough. It still works. It's crisp enough. But it would be nice to have that one high screen. Either give us 100% sRGB at this resolution, or like Gen 1, we had a 1600p, which is crazy, 100% sRGB screen. That thing was super nice. Yeah, it'll hurt the battery a little bit, but just giving us that option is really nice. I know they have the screen, so it's not a case of like Lenovo being like, well, we have to then have the screen on tap. It's just they have the screen. So in that case, just give us that screen as an option. I'm not asking you to make a new screen to put in this thing. That's the negative. Otherwise, I don't really have any negatives. I guess like, you know, the black chassis can get fingerprints, but it's so easy to wipe down. The inside is good. Dual NVMe, 2 RAM slots, so you can upgrade that as well, and upgradable Wi-Fi. Like, what else could you want there? Cooling is adequate. It's good. Port selection is good. Speakers are fine. They're not good or bad. They're just like whatever. It's an E-series laptop from Lenovo, whatever. I'm not going to come be like, the speakers suck. It's a ThinkPad E16, whatever. The trackpad is exactly like you get on a ThinkPad here, all that. So it is a ThinkPad through and through, right? So if you don't like some of the ThinkPad things, maybe you won't like this one specifically, but there's a reason why there's a huge ThinkPad, I don't call them enthusiast, like, or purist. There's just like people who like ThinkPads and use ThinkPads because of the reason that ThinkPads are good. Like, they're not just buying it because they're like, I like ThinkPads, but I can't justify it. No, there's a reason why they buy ThinkPads. And this is one of them. It's just a true ThinkPad. No real problems with it overall. They do a good job. Price is a lot lower than some of the other laptops on the market that offer what this offers. So if you're looking for, you know, a nice businessy focused, look at the fingerprints, easy to wipe, like I said, you know, nice professional businessy type of thing. Maybe you're not like the highest level professional graphic designer, but you're looking for a ThinkPad that's going to get the job done and does not break the bank. You're a student or something like that. This is probably the one to get. Honestly, it probably is. Because when you get into the T and P series, you know, you're getting all that premium stuff, but you're paying a lot more money. Very nice laptop, nice and versatile. I'm happy that they didn't just like blow up the E series and they're like, whatever, we're going to get rid of it because it's, you know, cheaper. It's a nice laptop and they do a good job with them.